Hello, viewers. Good morning to you, everywhere you are this beautiful Sunday. Welcome back to UnboundVerse. Today's story is going to be one that might touch your heart, depending on what you know about the place in particular that's concerned with this story. All right, with no further delay, let's dive into it. Today's story is titled The Parable of the Watchtower. The Parable of the Watchtower. Once upon a time, in the vibrant land of Nigeria, there stood a great watchtower that overlooked the vast expanse of the nation. The watchtower was home to a diverse group of watchmen, each with their own congregation of followers who looked up to them for guidance, wisdom, and protection. These watchmen were revered throughout the land, for they were believed to have a divine connection to the heavens and a deep understanding of the spiritual world. The people of Nigeria were a hardworking and faithful lot, but their land was often troubled. The earth beneath them was rich with resources, but the fruits of their labor were even devoured by the greedy and the corrupt. The roads were long and treacherous, and many were lost to the shadows of poverty, ignorance, and injustice. The watchmen, perched high in their tower, saw these troubles, but many of them chose to remain silent, focusing instead on the spiritual well-being of their followers. One day, a young man named AJ, troubled by the state of his nation, climbed the steep steps of the watchtower. He sought the counsel of the watchmen, for he believed they held the wisdom that could heal the land. "Great watchman," AJ said, "you are the light in our darkness, the voice that we follow. But why do you remain silent on the matters of our nation? Why do you not speak of the corruption, the poverty, and the injustice that plague our land?" The watchmen looked down at AJ, and many of them remained silent. They had always believed that their role was to guide their followers only on the path of righteousness, to lead them to the heavens, not to meddle in the affairs of the earth. But one of the elder watchmen, known as Olu, spoke up. "AJ," Olu said, "we are the keepers of the spiritual realm. Our teachings are meant to uplift the soul, to bring our people closer to the divine. The matters of the earth are complex, and we fear that engaging in them might lead to division, strife, and even danger for our people and ourselves." AJ nodded, understanding their concerns, but his heart was heavy with the knowledge of the suffering in his land. "Olu," he said, "you speak the truth, but the people look to you not just for spiritual guidance, but for wisdom in all things. You are the moral compass of our nation. If you do not speak out against the injustices we face, who will? If you do not guide us in the ways of justice, how will we ever find our way out of the darkness?" Olu listened carefully, and the words of the young man stirred something deep within him. He knew that the path AJ was suggesting was fraught with challenges, but he also knew that silence could no longer be the answer. "AJ," Olu finally said, "you have opened my eyes to a truth I had long feared to see. We, the watchmen, must do more than watch. We must speak We must guide our people not just to the heavens, but through the trials of this earth. We must use our influence to promote justice, to challenge corruption, to educate our followers, and to unite our divided nation. Olu then turned to the other watchmen. Brothers and sisters, it is true that our role has always been to lead our people in spiritual matters, but the spiritual and the earthly are not separate. They are intertwined. We cannot ignore the suffering of our people on this earth if we are to truly lead them to a better life, both here and in the hereafter. The watchmen murmured among themselves, some hesitant, others thoughtful, but one by one, they began to see the wisdom in Olu's words. They realized that they had been given their positions not just to watch, but to act, to be the voice of the people, to use their moral authority to bring about change. From that day forward, the watchmen of the tower began to speak out on the issues that plagued their nation. They addressed the corruption that had seeped into the land. They advocated for the poor and the marginalized. They preached the importance of education, and they worked to unite the divided tribes and religions of Nigeria. Their words carried great weight, and soon the people of Nigeria began to rise up. Inspired by the courage of their leaders, they started to demand justice, to hold their leaders accountable, and to work together for the betterment of their nation. The land, once mired in darkness, began to see the light of hope. AJ, the young man who had sparked this change, watched the pride as his nation slowly transformed. He knew that the road ahead was still long and difficult, but he also knew that with the watchmen leading the way, Nigeria would find its way out of the shadows and into the light. And so, the watchmen of Nigeria became not just the keepers of the spiritual realm, but the guides of their people through the trials of the earth. They learned that to truly serve their followers, they had to engage in the issues of the land, to speak out against injustice, and to work for the development of their nation. Their legacy became one of courage, wisdom, and action, a legacy that would guide Nigeria for generations to come. The awakening. As the watchmen of the tower embraced their new role, they began to take their message beyond their congregations. They organized forums, bringing together leaders from different faiths, ethnic groups, and communities to discuss the pressing issues facing the nation. These forums become known as the Councils of Light, and they quickly gained a reputation for fostering honest dialogue, cooperation, and mutual respect among Nigeria's diverse people. The Councils of Light tackled subjects that had long been avoided: the deep-rooted corruption that siphoned the nation's wealth, the inequalities in access to education and healthcare, the environmental degradation caused by unchecked exploitation, and the persistent conflicts fueled by religious and ethnic differences. These discussions were not easy, and often they revealed painful truths about the state of the nation but they also sparked a new sense of responsibility and possibility, empowering the youth. One of the most significant outcomes of the councils was the focus on empowering the youth. The watchmen understood that the future of Nigeria lay in the hands of its young people, and so they began to create programs that combined spiritual teachings with practical skills. These programs taught the youth about leadership, entrepreneurship, civic engagement, and the importance of ethical behavior in all aspects of life. The youth, inspired by the newfound relevance of their religious leaders, began to take active roles in their communities. They started businesses that not only provided for their families but also contributed to the local economy. They formed organizations to clean up their neighborhoods, to educate their peers, and to advocate for social justice. The energy and innovation of the youth became a driving force for national development, and their respect for the watchmen deepened as they saw the tangible impact of their guidance, uniting a divided nation. The watchmen's efforts to promote unity among Nigeria's diverse population also began to bear fruit. In regions where religious and ethnic tensions had previously led to violence and distrust, the watchmen facilitated dialogues that emphasized shared values and common goals. Through these dialogues, communities that had once been at odds began to work together on joint projects such as building schools, building clinics, building infrastructure. These collaborations helped to break down barriers and foster a sense of national identity that transcended tribal and religious lines. The watchmen themselves became symbols of this unity. Christians, Muslims, and traditional leaders stood together on platforms, delivering messages of peace and cooperation. Their visible solidarity sent a powerful message across Nigeria that despite their differences, they could work together for the common good. Influence on governance. As the watchmen's influence grew, they began to be consulted by political leaders. Their moral authority and the respect they commanded among the populace made them invaluable advisors on issues of national importance. They used this influence to push for policies that reflected the values they preached: honesty, justice, compassion, and stewardship of the nation's resources. They also held leaders accountable, not hesitating to call out corruption, not hesitating to call out mismanagement, not hesitating to call out abuse of power. Their sermons and public statements became powerful tools for advocacy, and their voices were increasingly heard in the halls of power. This newfound role as moral watchdogs helped to usher in a new era of governance in Nigeria, where leaders knew they would be held to a high standard by the watchmen and the people they represented. A nation transformed. Over time, Nigeria began to change. The combination of grassroots action inspired by the youth, the unity fostered by interfaith dialogue, and the accountability driven by the watchmen's moral leadership led to tangible improvements in the country. Corruption, while not entirely eradicated, was significantly reduced. Education and healthcare became more accessible, particularly in rural areas where the watchmen's initiatives had the greatest impact. The economy began to diversify, with new industries emerging that were driven by ethical practices and a commitment to sustainability. Most importantly, a sense of hope and pride began to take root among the people. They saw that change was possible and that their country's future was in their hands. The watchmen, who had once been hesitant to engage in national development, were now seen as the guardians of Nigeria's progress, guiding their people with wisdom, courage, and a deep commitment to justice. The legacy of the watchmen. Years later, the story of the watchmen of the tower will be told across Nigeria and beyond. They were remembered not just for their spiritual leadership, but for their courage in stepping out of their traditional roles to address the needs of their nation. Their legacy lived on in the institutions they helped to build, the lives they touched, and the nation they helped to shape. Nigeria, once a land troubled by division and despair, had become a beacon of hope, a testament of what could be achieved when leaders dared to lead not just in the realm of the spirit, but in the realm of the world as well. And so, the parable of the Watchtower became a story of transformation, of the power of faith in action, and of the extraordinary impact that moral leadership can have on the course of a nation's history. Conclusion: the call to leadership. The story of the watchmen of the tower is more than just a tale of transformation. It is a powerful reminder of the role that religious leaders can play in the broader narrative of national development. In Nigeria, where faith and religion are deeply woven into the fabric of society, religious leaders have a unique opportunity and indeed a responsibility to shape the moral and ethical direction of the nation. The watchman's journey from silence to action illustrates the religious leadership is not confined to spiritual matters only. The watchman's journey from silence to action illustrates that religious leadership is not confined to spiritual matters only. It extends into the realm of social justice. It extends into the realm of governance, and it extends into the realms of community development. By stepping out of their traditional roles and engaging with the challenges facing their nation, the watchmen were able to inspire their followers. They were able to influence policies, and they were able to contribute to the creation of a more just and prosperous society. This story serves as a call to religious leaders across Nigeria and indeed the world to recognize their immense power they hold to effect positive change. By addressing issues of national development with the same passion and commitment they bring to spiritual matters, they can help build a society that reflects the values of justice, unity, and compassion. In the end, the watchman's legacy is a testament to the fact that true leadership is about more than guiding people in faith. It is about guiding them in life. It is about using one's influence to uplift the downtrodden, to speak out against injustice, and to work tirelessly for the common good. It is a reminder that the path to national development is not just a political or economic journey. It is a moral one as well, and religious leaders have a crucial role to play in leading the way. If you have all learned one thing or two on the parable of the Watchtower, support this channel by sharing this parable of the Watchtower to the entirety of your friends and of those that are not your friends, but you want to see the video. Thank you for watching. See you in another video. Goodbye for now.